I'm so excited to start thinking about Thanksgiving. We're hosting for the first time, just my parents and us. We usually do it with a wider family, but a lot of traveling. So I'm excited to actually cook all the traditional food. I'm gonna do all the side dishes and desserts. So I'm gonna start that this week early and freeze a lot of it. That way it makes Thanksgiving a lot more, peaceful and relaxing. I'm doubling most of the Thanksgiving dishes and having half for dinner this week to make it attainable. Cooking everything beforehand and having a separate dinner is not realistic, and neither is a massive Thanksgiving meal prepared in one day. I want to be able to enjoy my family and not be stressed in the kitchen. So spreading the cooking out and having a little bit for dinner that night is the only way I know how to do it. Plus it means we get a little taste of Thanksgiving all month long, which I love. These dishes are not quick and easy, but they are delicious and nice to get that taste more than once a year. If you enjoy this video and like watching cooking inspiration sprinkled with a bit of motherhood, remember to like and subscribe for more. Kicking things off with an often overlooked side, dinner rolls. They're simple to make, easy to double, and go with just about everything. The trick for making them early is to freeze them before the second rise, then bake them fresh on the big day. No one will ever guess they were made ahead of time. These rolls are really fast rising and enriched bread too, which is perfect for my bread loving kids. I like to swap in about 1/3 whole wheat flour to make them a little bit heartier and healthier. And help them rise quick, warm milk really helps. It activates the yeast and breaks down the proteins that can slow the fermentation. Just make sure it's heated to the right temperature, between 105 and 115. I shoot for 110. If it's too cold, the dough rises slower. If it's too hot, the yeast won't survive, which is the worst. Once the yeast is activated, just mix in eggs, sugar, salt, 1/3 of the flour, and softened butter until everything is nicely combined. Then add the rest of the flour and let the mixer do the kneading for about 10 minutes. You can do it by hand, but just takes a little bit more effort. While that's working, the mixer's working, I get started on the Salisbury steak we're gonna have for tonight's dinner. I can never tell if my boys prefer this or meatloaf more. It's simple though, kind of similar, but this one's just ground beef, eggs, ketchup, oregano, Dijon mustard, breadcrumbs, and a bit of salt. All that gets mixed into the steaks or burgers and shaped into patties. Callum always wants to help with mixing meat, so I tried the gloves this time. It's great sensory play for him, but I definitely need to find some his size. I don't know why getting gloves on kids is the most frustrating thing ever. By the time I've shaped the patties and put them in the fridge for later, the dough is done kneading, so it works nicely. This is one of the few doubled bread recipes my KitchenAid actually handles well. Normally, the dough will creep up over the attachment and it struggles, it's getting hot, but this one, it works like a dream. I don't know what it is, but if you double bread recipes often, I highly recommend investing in the larger mixer. I really want to do that at some point, but I just bought this one not too long ago. You know the dough is ready when it bounces back after a poke and passes the, window pane test. For the rise, I needed a much bigger bowl than what I guessed. It took about an hour at room temp. It'd take a little bit longer if the kitchen's starting to get cooler. Split the dough, roll it out, and let it rise again for another hour. Working with yeasted dough is just so pleasant. It's not sticky at all, and you can almost literally watch it rise here. For the ones for Thanksgiving, I'm just gonna put them on a greased pan. I'm gonna roll them into a bowl and put them on a greased pan and just let them freeze a little bit so they don't stick in the paper bag or in the plastic bag. And then they can freeze there until Thanksgiving, which is in about a month. And then all you got to do is just take them out and let them defrost and rise for the second rise for about 4 to 5 hours and bake them for 20 minutes. So it's not bad, and I think I'll have enough oven space for that since it doesn't take so long. And I think they're always better if you can just bake them the day of, especially bread like this. But if you want to go ahead and bake them and freeze them, that works too. With my Thanksgiving prep wrapped up in those dinner rolls pretty much and going into the oven soon, I move on to cooking tonight's dinner. Those Salisbury steaks only need a few minutes per side in the pan before removing them. They're not fully cooked here, but that's enough for now. Just want to get that nice crispy layer. I'm serving it with some roasted broccoli to add some color and some more nutrition. And never toss your broccoli stems. Just trim off the tough outer layer. You can almost see like this layer in the stem. Trim that off. It's more than what you think. And roast that inside is really delicious and actually better for you than the florets. And you're not wasting anything. Onto the delicious gravy. Homemade stock makes such a big difference here though in the flavor. You just get such a better tasting gravy if you've made your stock from scratch. I didn't end up quite using as much stock as the recipe had called for, so you might need to eyeball it too. This is a double batch that we'll enjoy over a few meals. I love spending time in the kitchen and making delicious meals, but it's not possible to do it every single night. I get a little tired. I need more time with my kids, you know, so it's great that this will last us pretty much like 3 dinners. I'm so glad I set out all the ingredients beforehand because I almost forgot to add the extra flavorings to the gravy. Just a little ketchup, Worcestershire, oregano, onion powder, and salt and pep go in too. I toss in the mushrooms to cook for just a few minutes, nestle the steaks back in, and let everything simmer until tender. It's such a hearty, comforting dish, and it pairs perfectly with those warm dinner rolls, which are ideal for like soaking up every last bit of gravy on your plate. Prepping the steaks ahead of time really makes this go a little bit smoother at dinner time and more achievable for a weeknight meal. The rolls turned out so good. I could honestly eat them every night. And while my little one is always thrilled about waiting for dinner, I love the rare evenings when he's patient enough to wait for something really good. And the best part, plenty of nourishing leftovers for the next night that everyone actually looks forward to. I just reheat the Salisbury steaks in a splash of that broth, adding a little bit at a time until a smooth gravy forms again. And this night my little guy was not so patient and he was so ready to eat. So good we had leftovers. He kept bringing the little insert to his plate over, which is pretty much his way of saying, "Feed me now, mama." So cute how they communicate at this age. A crisp and beautiful morning. So outside first thing after breakfast to pick some carrots to go with a roast, which is the perfect partner for the best herb stuffing, which I'm doubling, of course. There's nothing like starting the morning in cold air. It wakes me up 10 times better than a coffee ever could. Today I'm going to make a stuffing for the Thanksgiving dinner. I'm just going to try to do my best to double it. And I have it with some roasted chicken that I make often. Over these carrots, oh, my hair almost got in the fire. Over these carrots we picked this morning. And I'm going to actually brine the chicken this time because it tastes so much better, and I've thought ahead to do it. I just do it in some salt and sugar, maybe about 1/8 of a cup each. And it does that for about an hour, hour and a half, and it makes the chicken really, really good. For the stuffing, I've got some bread. Usually it's better if you do it with stale bread, but yeah, that's not where we're at. So I'm just gonna cut it in some cubes and let it toast in the oven for about 15 minutes to give that effect. You can, if you've got stale bread, or if you have a fresh loaf, if you have the time, you can just let it, cut it up in cubes and let it set overnight with a paper towel over it, and that'll help it get that flavor. I'm using this one and some other bread I have that's store-bought. I like the different textures. It helps make a really good stuffing together with the butter and fresh herbs. After boiling it, I just add a little water to it to cool that water down a little bit so it's not super hot. But don't overfill the pot because you can easily overflow when you add the chicken in. You can always add more later. I learned the hard way not to add too much water once I ended up with a disaster of raw chicken water everywhere. So really don't do that. Lean on less water and always add more. I had a few extra dinner rolls left over, so I tossed these in too. Again, the more types of bread you use, the better the texture. It's not essential, but it adds a little extra texture to a dish that usually lacks it. The boys were running late from their play date, which meant I had a little bit of unexpected peace and quiet in the kitchen, so I didn't want to wait for that fresh bread to bake. Just grabbed some from the freezer, warmed it up in the oven, and just warm enough so I could, slice it into cubes. Okay, I think that's probably enough bread for 2 casseroles, though I probably should split it between 2 pans. I just don't feel like it, so it stays in one to toast at 350 for about 15 minutes while I start peeling the carrots for the roast. This is another meal that is slowly prepped throughout the day, so by dinner time everything comes together effortlessly. My favorite type of meal. This roasted chicken is good by itself, but everything is better with a sauce. I usually just serve it with some ketchup and call it a day for the kids, but I want to go ahead and make some cranberry sauce, which I think will be great with chicken as well. And I love that you get a little taste of Thanksgiving throughout November by doing this. So I'm just going to make this with some fresh cranberries. It's just sugar, orange juice, and some water simmered together. Then you add the cranberries in with a few other pieces, let it simmer, and that's pretty much it. I've been cleaning and saving some of these little spice jars to give away some of the homemade elderberry syrup I made in a previous video. I'll card that. You definitely should be making it. It's helped us stay healthy so far, knock on wood. And let's just say no one is turning it down. These are perfect because you can just easily pour them into a spoon out of this type of jar. What a beautiful pan. This makes me so excited for Christmas and all the simmer pots that are coming. Love hearing them pop as they cook. Cranberry sauce is very similar to making jam. You just cook it until it has a bit of elasticity. That means it doesn't immediately fill back in when you drag a spoon through it. That's how you know it's gotten a bit of thickness to it. When chopping a bunch of vegetables like this, I always try to save the scraps for stock. If I'm doing one, maybe I won't do it, but a lot, yes, I'll definitely do it. I'll be making some chicken broth later from the carcass of the chicken, so I just toss the unused veggies into a bowl for later. You can also freeze them in a Ziploc bag, add more as you need, and take them out when you need them. That way you don't have to use like a whole fresh carrot or onion and still get that great flavor. Now, I don't always take the time to do this, as you've probably noticed, but for this dish, it's worth properly dicing the onions. I always start by slicing the onion in half, then cutting a crust, then vertically, and finally back across the whole thing. I think the hardest part is keeping it all together here at the end. I found holding all of it together with my outer fingers while my pointer finger guides the knife is the easiest way to handle that. And just don't cut too close to the root. That little bit goes straight into the stockpile. The veggies really need to cook down in the butter for a while with salt and pepper until they get really tender. It builds such a rich flavor for the dish, so don't skip this. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes. It also gives me a chance to step outside into the fresh air and grab some herbs from the garden. When looking at anything up close like this for too long, it's good to kind of look at the horizon or outside for a bit. It gives your eyes a much needed break. I've got thyme and parsley in the fridge, but I'm also going to add some rosemary and probably the last of my sage from the garden. Nothing is really growing anymore. You can tell it's getting cold, which honestly, I love this chillier weather, at least the start of it. If you use fresh rosemary for cooking, like you have your own plant, I found that you really need to prune it away to allow soft new growth to appear. That is where the best flavor is. Never cut into the woody stem since new growth won't sprout from there, and that part also doesn't actually taste that good. Once the herbs are chopped, they go into the pot with the chicken stock to simmer for a bit before adding to the bread. Always remove the stems from the rosemary. I like to do the same for the thyme in this dish too. It helps with the flavor. You don't really want those woody stems in there. Fold everything together gently. Really, you're aiming here not to get the bread too mushy, which is easy. And whisk in the room temperature eggs into a little bit of the chicken broth just to adjust their temperature and mix that into, again, trying not to break up the bread. This recipe is not for the weak, but it is my favorite Thanksgiving side dish and so good. We gobbled up this little pie pan in one night. Both of the casseroles go on the bottom rack so they don't get too crispy on top, and the brined and tied chicken goes right into on the middle rack to cook at the same time, which is nice. The chicken definitely takes a little bit longer though. Put a little water, top with coconut oil and salt and pepper, and bake this about 2 cups. I don't think my husband will get too mad at this. Not too bad. Cranberry sauce is all done. I added a bit more honey because I was low on sugar on top. But I like it a little thick, but I might puree some for the boys. Thanksgiving. I'm gonna spoon. Not gonna lie, I'm a little tired. It's time for coffee. I never really thought cooking was hard work, but it is. I feel for chefs that have to do it every night. And late. At least mine shift ends at 5. Or at least the cooking shift. With dinner practically done, we headed outside for a bit. Now that the sun sets so early, we can't get outside after dinner anymore, which is why I love meals that let me do most of the cooking ahead of time, instead of being stuck in the kitchen from that 4 to 5 period. This would be a great one to make over the weekend. Well, dinner rolls, cranberry sauce, and stuffing are all tucked away in the freezer, ready for a calm, stress-free Thanksgiving holiday. I've been doing a few more of these make-ahead dishes to prepare for the big day. If you'd like to see more, please let me know in the comments and I'll make another video. I do all the editing in my spare time and just not enough time in the day. Remember to like and subscribe to follow along for more too. It means more than you know. Take care, and I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday if you celebrate it.